Hi, welcome to my visualization project demo done for the course CSE 564 under the guidance of Professor Klaus Moller. The outcome of this project were simple and are as follows. The one was the user should be able to use the D3 library, which is being used by the industry level to generate beautiful graphs, learn a bit of JavaScript, and also draw beautiful graphs with the data being provided to you. So for the same, I went across many data sites as mentioned in the class, and I say I came across a data set which was IBM HR attrition performance. So it basically is an data set collected by IBM HRs regarding the employee attritions that have been happening over a year to get some analytics of the same. As you know, that attrition is quite costly for a firm, as once a good employee leaves a firm, there is a high cost associated uh, to train a new employee to bring up to the expertise of that same employee uh, as the older employee, and more or less many other costs that goes without saying. So this is a nice data set and an interesting data set to be used for this project. The data set, I think, has a good quality of categorical values as well as numerical values. If I just go over them, and I think when I just went over them using my Jupyter notebook, I never found an issue with the data set, as all the values were populated and were in the good condition. So basically there was no need to pre-process the data before using the data set for my project. So I think that was a good point for this data set. I think when we can go over the data set, I think this is what the data looks like. It has say many columns. So let's say starting with age, what was the age of employee? Did the employee went through attrition? So did the employee leave the firm or not? Business travel, what was the department? Say what was the distance from home? So where does the employee lived, and how far he lived from the office? Education level, field where the employee worked, then maybe the gender, hourly rate, what is the hourly rate of the employee? And I think more or less, I think these are quite interesting field to be, I think, used for the visualization. And I think we will see more when we see the graphs that are be generated for this. Say so, this was the data set, and probably I think let's go over the dashboard that I have created for the same. So I think this is just a landing page that I've created using Bootstrap. The theme is taken from Bootstrap, and if you see, there's the side nav bar detailing all the various pages that you have. That is home, bar, and histogram, which is one page to show bar and histogram charts, and scatter, which is also a page to show the scatter charts. So let's go over bar and histogram chart. So one of the say requirements of the project was user should have an ability to invert chart. So if this is a toggle to invert chart, so if we just toggle it on, you will see the same chart being inverted on. So I think that is one of the features. But going over the same, I think these are the columns that are available for users to create charts on. I think if you see, I have given the prefix n, prefix c. So n means the data is numerical. C means the data is categorical. So it was a requirement that if a user selects a numerical value, let's say we select daily rate, there should be histogram be populated. So if you see, the histogram has been populated. So I have say daily rate is x-axis and y-axis is frequency. If we invert the axis, my daily rate becomes my y-axis and frequency becomes my x-axis. Let's go over another. Let's take hourly rate. Hourly rate is also a bit skewed, but yeah, hourly rate is also one of the histogram data available because it is numeric. Percentage salary. Yeah, this is also good data. You see, there's a percentage salary hike. If we invert axis, you can see inverted axis. So this were, I think, the examples of numerical. Let's go over. So if you see, For all the numerical values, there has been histogram being populated. Now let's go over the categorical values. So let's say this is the iteration categorical value. So you see my inverted axis is still clicked. So my iteration will be on y-axis, and the frequency of iteration or frequency of iteration being yes or no is on x-axis. Similarly, if I toggle it off, we see the normal bar graph or bar plots that were there for the categorical data. Similarly, if you go over job roles, there are different job roles. So if you see, I have made sure that uh, the job roles here you see are a bit wide. And if I would have kept it horizontally and labeled it horizontally, it would have overlapped. So I made sure that it is under a certain degree. So it is inclined by a certain degree so that it does not say overlap with the other one. And there are also grid lines provided for easy reading of the graphs. So if you see every graph has a grid line provided, so you can see, okay, yeah, this is just about, let's say 300, 350, 325. So you can just go over the data using the grid line, then it is quite handy. Let's take another one. Let's say stock option or maybe times taken last year. Okay, yeah. So this is time. So what are the training times of employee last year, and what is the frequency? So the more employees had, say, 2 days of training times, which were there for the last year. 2 and 3 are the major population. Years with current manager. So yeah, it's also a good histogram because if you see, I selected a numerical value, so it's populating histogram. Invert, same, it does the invert functionality. So this was more or less my functionality being generated for bar graphs or histogram charts given the selected menu. So if you select the numerical value, you get a histogram. If you select a categorical value, you get a bar graph or bar plot, whichever you may say. Now comes the scatter plot. So scatter plot, I think, yep. So this is, I think, a kind of animation that I just inserted. But yeah, so this shows the, I think the x-axis is age and the y-axis is education field. So, so one of the, say, requirement for scatter plot in the project was user should have an ability to select, say, axis from the drop-down menu, and he or she or should have a ability to select which axis he needs to change. So let's say if you see the axis selected is X, and if I want to change the X axis, which is currently age, to, let's say, business travel. Okay, so you see now my X axis is business travel and my Y axis is still educational field. So you see this is one of the scatter plots. Let's take, if we don't want an educational field, so I think this, if you want to change it, you can select Y axis as a radio button, and let's take hourly rate. So yeah, this is also kind of scatter plot. If you see similar labeling, and so labeling is done for axis as well as the ticks. If you see, they are inclined to a certain angle to avoid the overlapping. So if you see, overall there can be 4 types of graphs in scatter that could be generated. So one could be numerical versus numerical. So let's go over it. So if you see, the hourly rate currently is numerical and business travel is categorical. So let's change the x-axis to something numerical. So percentage salary high. Okay. So this is, I think, numerical versus numerical. So x and y both are numerical. So you are seeing, say, a value like this. This is the data for numerical versus numerical. Um, hourly rate. Now let's go over numerical versus categorical, something numerical. So numerical will be on the x-axis and y-axis, let's take categorical. Marital status. Okay. So yeah, so this is percentage salary hike, and let's say marital status of, say, divorced, married, or single. Yeah. So there are 3 categories available, and you are seeing the scattered data. So this was an example of, say, numerical versus categorical. Let's go over now. Let's just change X to categorical. So X to categorical job role. So this would give us how many people in sales and their distribution. So are they single, are they married, are they divorced, or if there is a data available amongst them. So this is categorical versus the categorical data set being plotted. Now x-axis being categorical, and we will change the y-axis to numerical. Monthly income is one of the great measures. Yeah. So this is one of the graphs that's being done, and it represents categorical versus numerical data set being represented by a scatter chart. So I think, yeah, this is more or less my project work for CSE 564. And I think, yeah, this overall covers the scope of the project. And I think you liked it. For any suggestions, please, yeah, you can reach out to me. We'll happy to go over it. Thank you.